I was diagnosed of sickle cell disease when I was a baby. My parents found out that I had sickle cell disease while at the hospital. And well, growing up with sickle cell disease pretty much puts me a lot of the time out of school. I was out of school for long periods of time. And then another complication I developed was bad eyesight. So I have myopia, and then I have to use glasses all the time. And then there are frequent hospital visits. Go to the hospital or emergency, and then we'll end up staying for a long time, and I would have to catch up with other activities in my life. And then another thing that I faced while growing up was labels that people attached. Most times I would meet someone new and exciting, and I'll tell them, oh, I have sickle cell disease, I'm a warrior, and then they switch. Maybe not physical, but in the way they treat me. Sometimes they feel I am a weakling, that's label, and it wasn't so cool. My family had always been so supportive. I remember my father, like from the early years, he would always stay through the night with me whenever I was sick. He would pray for me, and then he would get me to take water. And my siblings never judged me. They were very empathic, and they have supported me. They always tell me that you're brilliant and we love you and you can do anything you want to do. So my family has been so supportive. I think for a lot that I am today, my family has contributed a lot. The hardest part for me was when I lost my father. He was so supportive. He would always take me for hospital checks. He would always be with me. And also, I guess having a bad eyesight is one of the things that is hard for me to accept. I have to always, almost all the time, use glasses, just for my sight. And then it's not something that I like, but yeah, I would say that's the hardest part for me. And also, being labeled as a sickler is one of the things that is hard for me. I find it so derogatory that someone would look at me and call me a sickler, because yes, I fall sick, but then I don't see myself as a sickler, and I find it derogatory. So being labeled as such is one of the hardest parts for me. I think the most absurd cliche that I've come across is people coming to tell me that I should take it easy, okay, and I should take it easy, and because my life is okay. For someone that has sickle cell disease, their life is usually short, and then so while I was going to the university, I chose to study architecture, and so many people were like, do you want to kill yourself? They felt that I was dreaming too much, and I should maybe take on a simpler course, But I've done it. I went to the university and I finished. I went back and I'm done, and then I'm still here. I'm not yet dead, contrary to what people have said. And for me, everyone, life is life. Everyone is going to die eventually. We are all going to die. We are human beings, And so that shouldn't stop me from doing what I want to do. I will take care of my body. I would have to take extra precautions than the average normal person. But I don't think I'm going to die anytime soon. One thing that has been so helpful to me is drinking lots of warm water. I always, whenever I wake up in the morning, I'll drink water, I'll drink tea, and it has to be hot. And then it has helped me to keep me away from crises. Another thing is part of a support group, and you know, we would usually gather and sit with one another and share our experiences. So that has really helped me to know that I am not alone. It's not just peculiar to me. There are other people out there who have sickle cell disease, and they are managing it pretty well. You know, they're doing very fine. And so I draw encouragement and support from that. Let me say I have been quite fortunate. I have not had any relationship where I have been stigmatized. I have, although I know of people who, you know, their boyfriends left them because they found out that they have sickle cell disease. But for me, I haven't had that, like, in a relationship. I have enjoyed love from the opposite sex, and it has been quite wonderful for me. But there was this one time that I was in a relationship, and so, of course, I'll try to explain my pain, you know, to my partner, and so he felt that I was focusing, or I was talking too much about it. He looked down upon my pain, and that was really hurtful to me, because my pain is not something that you can see, it's not something you can touch, but it is real. And so maybe he didn't understand it, but then he was like, he made it look as if I was putting things out of proportion, and it wasn't so. And I feel looked down upon. You know, I felt he wasn't so empathic, and he wasn't putting himself in my shoes, and I felt he could have done better. People should not run away from having meaningful relationships with warriors. I would say that if you truly love someone, you shouldn't allow circumstance to discouraging you. You know, of course, there are going to be peculiar challenges that your relationship will have to face, you would have to go through. But it shouldn't stop you from loving the person that you want to love, whether the person has sickle cell disease or not. I know, because I have some friends who are warriors, you know, and they are married, and one has she has 2 children, and the other is still pregnant. And yes, there are complications. I wouldn't say there isn't. There are complications. It's going to come, but with adequate treatment, you know, and regular visits, you know, to the hospital, and enough rest, you know, I believe that you can have a meaningful relationship, and you can have a successful marriage, you know, with a warrior. Every relationship or every marriage will certainly suffer, will certainly go through bad times and tough times. It's a process that comes with being human. It comes with being alive, you know. So even if you end up with someone who is AA, and is not a warrior, doesn't have sickle cell, of course, there'll be challenges that your relationship or marriage will go through. So I see it as just one of, the challenges that comes your way. And if you love someone, I don't think that complications or challenges like that should stop you from being with that person. People with sickle cell disease are very resilient. We have a lot of inner strength that most times people don't notice. The fact that our bodies are not strong doesn't mean that our minds are not. I have people as friends and as mentors that I've looked up to that have gone on to do amazing things, in their chosen careers. I know of a doctor, who is now a consultant and he lives with sickle cell disease. I know of a lawyer who is doing really well. And and then there's myself, who is also doing good in what I have chosen to do. Sickle cell is not something that you look at someone and see it written on their faces. It's just like, let me use the analogy of someone who has AIDS. It doesn't, they show for face. It's something that affects the blood. And I understand that sometimes there are complications, that is attached to sickle cell disease. And it may cause certain physical distortions, to the body. But it's not something that you can look at someone and say, oh, she has sickle cell disease. I mean, like, look at me. So for people who, sickle cell warriors who have suffered depression, I would say that most times, it comes with maybe people having stereotypes, and people talking down at you because perhaps you always have to rely on drugs, or you're always in the hospital. And I would say that almost everyone can suffer from depression. It is not something that is peculiar to warriors, but it doesn't have to be so. I think people need to love more. That's one thing that will change a lot of what we see today. People go through a lot, and I believe that love conquers all. Even though love is a lot of hard work, especially with warriors, yes, you would have to put in a lot to make it work. But then I think people need to be more open-minded. You don't have to stop being rigid, about these beliefs that we have grown up with, and people need to go out there and be more accepting. I think that a lot of the negative that is happening is because people don't, there's a lot of ignorance surrounding sickle cell disease. So there's a lot of work that has been out there, go online, do your research, and know the facts so that you don't keep living with a mentality that is not true. For people who see people with sickle cell disease as working cops, well, I would say that they are wrong, because sickle cell we know keep person, and it's a condition that can be managed, and with proper treatment and proper management and medication. It's something that you can live with and grow old and have a normal life. Nobody should gamble with that type of decision, because there is a lot at stake. There is the financial implication, and then there is a very high chance too that if you do it, if you marry someone who is AS, your child is going to end up with SS, and I don't think it is worth it. I don't think you should judge, based on feelings or based on you think. Sometimes people have done it, and they got away with it, but it is better to not gamble. I would not advise anybody to gamble because, we have a responsibility, as a parent or an intending parent to seek for the best for your child. So would you like your child to go through pain that you can avoid? I don't think that is worth it. At best, if you insist, I would advise that you do not have children at all. But a lot of people may not be able to, do that. So, and there is actually a procedure, selective gene therapy that I've read about, but it's very expensive, that people who have AS and intend to marry someone else who has AS could do. I read about it, but that procedure is very expensive. So if you don't have money, I would advise you to gamble. Don't do it. It's not worth it. For a child who has been born with sickle cell disease, it means that the child will, a lot of the time, the child is going to experience painful crisis. And if you know how that pain is, you wouldn't want even your worst enemy to go through it, and your child, has risks not being able to do a lot of things that, children would want to do. He may not be able to play with his friends or her friends. He may be in and out of school. He may be labeled and stigmatized. And yes, your child also faces the risk of dying, from complications. And eventually, so let's say your child is able to have a normal, a partially normal childhood, and then he transitions to an adolescent and probably an adult, and there are a lot of issues that he may have with relationships. Not everyone gets to be as lucky as I was, and there may be rejection. Your child may face rejection from friends and from maybe family also, who do not understand. And the society, has may have a premonition, a preconceived notion that is bad, against your child. And as an adult, he may not be able to work efficiently, and so you have to spend a lot of money, and he may lose jobs, and all of that. And then the chances are also limited for that person when it comes to choosing a life partner, because it has to be AA. So this and more are what your child is going to face, and it's not going to be an easy road. I tell you, I have seen, sadly, homes break up because of children, like, they gave birth to children who had sickle cell disease, and it's not, the pain is much, you wouldn't want to put your child or yourself through all of that. My name is Nankak Tsetu. I am a writer, an architect, a sickle cell advocate. I am not a sickler. I am as human as any other.